Guys, I have found the optimal solution for the argument between men and women on how to keep the kitchen. Let me explain how this goes. So, I've been with my wife for a while. She's 3 months pregnant currently. We have a 1-year-old son. Um, she has been like sleeping like all the time, and that's fine. You know, she's got to do what she got to do. But results of that are that I'm taking care of the kitchen, and we have different standards on how the kitchen should be. And you know, it's like a thing as a man and woman we've been doing a long time. A lot of people do this all the time, and I now have the standard for. I figured out this absolute the standards for what it should be. So here's it goes. So number one rule, and so this is for men, women. Men, you got to do this. This is like serious. No bugs, no like no cockroaches, no mice, no nothing, unless you're like in the country or whatever. But if you're in the city, like no, you know, maybe ants are a little bit of an exception because they're kind of like hard to deal with, and also um, ants are like whatever because that's like an extermination that has to do with the housing and the stuff. But if your apartment, definitely no ants. And flies are allowed, but very like short periods of time. Like you can go 3 days with flies, but like past that is not acceptable because flies happen sometimes, like biodegradable or your the sink could get like needs to be like worked through, and that happens sometimes, and that's reasonable. That's part of household maintenance. That's just the thing that happens, and that's something that you deal with. This is very normal. If you don't have like help coming in, if it's just you guys, especially if you got kids or something. So no bugs, like that's unacceptable. No rotting food outside of the garbage or bio, you know, depending how you do that. That's unacceptable too. And even if it does rot, you gotta kind of get rid of it if it smells. Or you know, which is like put in the freezer, put it outside, or you know, however it is you guys get that, but get it out of the food area. Um, Fridge. So sometimes there's like stuff rotting in the fridge. You're allowed to have like one or two things that are rotten, like inedible, but not moldy. So like for example, leftovers. Like you put leftovers in the fridge and then you forget about them for 4 days and then they're not good anymore. Depends on leftovers, all that. Or you're like scared to open it. Like if there's shit in there that you're scared of, you got to get rid of it. Like just realistically, you got to get rid of it, and it's best to get rid of it when you realize you're scared of it. But or at least to like open up and make a decision, because if you don't make a decision, then the answer is throw it out. So you have to open up with if you're like scared of the food of the container to open it up. Either you look at it then and you say, can I make this decision, you know, within the next couple hours or maybe the next morning? Most. Otherwise, the decision is get rid of it. So you're allowed to have like one or two things in there because like that happens. Like that's part of it. It's hard to maintain that, and but like no mold. Like if there's mold growing, it's like way too like that's way too long. Like what happens is when mold grows, it sends out spores, which makes it more thing like things go bad much faster. If your kitchen has no mold in it, it takes longer for things to get moldy. If you have mold growing in your kitchen, then it's gonna like fuck up the whole thing. Like don't do that. So you got to get rid of mold. Mold's unacceptable. It does happen from time to time, but like if you know as the guy, if you're doing that, yeah, your partner's got can like give you shit for that. Like that's acceptable. It's acceptable to give shit for bugs and for mold. Like obviously be nice and considerate, but like you can still be in the right there. Fruit flies, like if it's like a day and then they're right on top of it, then you got to have that leeway because that's just part of life. Um, and then ants are like just a different thing. Like that's like a problem. And then big bugs are extermination as well. Like that's a you guys problem, not a like oh you're keeping them in country. If you get bed bugs, then that's like a real thing. It's kind of beyond the scope. Okay, so yeah, we talked about food in the fridge. We talked about like garbage. So the garbage, if it like smells, if it doesn't smell, then it's fine. You know, as long as there always has to, you have to generally be able to throw something out because otherwise that creates incentive for the people around you in the house to not throw things out or they don't want to deal with it. So if you're the one like maintaining the kitchen, you gotta having the garbage in a place where you can always throw things out, and also if it starts to smell, you got to get rid of it. Um, the next one is, oh yeah, so there's dishes, and then there's how like equipment and how that's usable. So equipment would be like the microwave or toaster or whatever, oven, stove, top, let's say. So you got to be allowed to keep. So all those things have to be usable at all times, right? Like if you're not able to use it, then you're not like maintaining it. So usable means like the microwave can't be disgusting, right? Like you want to be able to want to put food in there. So like a clean microwave, people want to put food in because it just makes it hot very quickly. But if it's a dirty microwave, people don't want to do that, right? Because they have to do all this stuff to it. So you got to keep that clean. Toasters got to be like, crumbs are like whatever, like who cares? But it's got to be in a way where it's not going to like set things on fire, because like toasters can be dangerous like that. You got to keep that safe. Next is, oh yeah, like dishes stuff out, and then there's also food supplies. So we talked about like the fresh food, the things that can go bad in the fridge. There's the other storage of food, our freezer, like counter stuff on the counter, and then like stuff in the cupboard. So the assuming you don't do like outside stuff, but that's also beyond scope. So stuff in the freezer, you got to go through that. Like it should be like 6 months, but I think pushing it to a year is okay if that's like stressful. Like you can like be like, hey, can you do this? But you can't um you can't really like get upset about it until it's a year. At a year, it's like, okay, now we actually have to get rid of the things. So that one, it's like easier to remember the year, because probably you did it like as long as there's a thing that happens in the world that will trigger you to clean it out, then you're on top of that every year. But really, it's like 6 months is also like sort of the bottom end when it's there. But really, it should be like every however long. Like you want to keep that stuff maintained. 3 months is more like good. Anything past 3 months, I think it's starting to get a little much. But like 3 months to 6 months is more reasonable. But a year is like the absolute like latest, because then you don't want to eat the stuff inside the freezer. Right? Anything that's there for more than a year is covered in frost, and it's got freezer burn or this or you don't remember what it is, and then it's like sketchy because you just like found some food in the garbage, but it's like non-garbage in your freezer. But it feels that way, so you got to just like at least once a year, you got to go all the way to the bottom, get rid of everything, defrost if that's how your freezer is. But I think nowadays it's not really a thing, like it does the auto. Um, and boom, then your freezer's good. As far as storage, I'm gonna save the dishes for last because that's what everyone wants to know. The storage stuff is kind of also the same as the freezer, right? So you have a lot of goods in the storage. So you got like like cans of tuna, or like anything canned goods, so cans of tuna, vegetables, whatever. That stuff will last years and years, and like you don't really need to worry about it. Um, which you don't need to worry about like the food, but you do need to worry about the space. Like if you're storing stuff for 10 years, then you've essentially like just given away a bunch of your storage space. So that's not great, right? So you should do that every like year, let's say a year or two. I'm gonna say a year or two. But like keep it at a minimum, right? Like, cause like we always have things in there that we're like, we're totally gonna eat this. No, we're not gonna eat it. Like you're not gonna eat it. So like get rid of it, and then you have just have more space. Unless you're doing like emergency supplies, and then that's a little bit different. Some people like to store a little bit before. I know I got a bunch of stuff like pre-COVID just because I didn't know what was going on. Turned out to be somewhat unnecessary, but not totally unnecessary. It was kind of helpful because there was some scarcity here and there, but it wasn't like prepper stuff. I did around, I think, the correct amount. Um, but like that's sort of up to you, what you're doing, when you are, what you think the world is, all that stuff. But like you still got to stay on top of that. That I think is at least once a year as well. Like if you're like prepping and take this seriously, you got to rotate your stuff out. Unless you're doing something like specific rations or whatever. But in general, you should be rotating it out because you don't know what. You also like want to keep on top of it and like build up a good system. Like whatever you're doing, if you're having that background, like you might have to eat that at some point. And so to keep it nice so that you're not just, but I get it. Um, there are also dry goods, like this is a standard. Dry goods should be clean, like no exposed food, right? So you should have a cup. You can have a cupboard with like exposed food, but like your main storage place should have nothing open. Everything is sealed in packages, and then there's no. That one is really good because the only thing that can happen there is like dust will build up, but there's no bugs. Like no bugs can come if everything's sealed. You can get mice or something, but they're less likely. Like they're not able to smell the food really if everything's sealed, but they can get into the containers. So, judgment there. And now dishes, like this is the big one, I think dishes. So first off, if you got a dishwasher, you can't ever do half and half, right? Like you can't half empty the dishwasher. You got to empty it all because otherwise people don't know what's going on. So it's all empty or all closed. Really, you should be taking it out like very soon after, depending on how you're doing it, like within a couple meals, I would say, because stuff is going to pile off. There's nowhere to put it. If you can put everything straight into the dishwasher, keeps all the counters clean. The other one is the counters, like how clean do they need to be, how messy they need to be. So I think that's kind of like up to you. Like this is like the point I like to show off like how on top of stuff you are, but you do get behind on things. So I think they're like instead of having specifically how many dishes, I think it's first off accessible. Like there should be counter space. Like there should always be a space to prepare food because you don't know what's going on with everyone else. They might be in a rush and they just need a quick bite to eat, and you don't want them just like always eating like crackers or something. You want them to be able to go to the fridge and make something quick. The next one um, is company. So a big one between men and women is women like to have the place like super spotless when guests come over, and men are like, whatever. So I think there's sort of two standards here that I'm going to put. There's would I be embarrassed to have someone close to me, so like close friends or family, inside my place to like which is a certain level of cleanliness, and then the second one is would I have a party here. So the first one is like would I have people in, um, like you want to keep that like it doesn't necessarily have to be at that level every time, but it should be very easy to go to. Like it shouldn't be more than like 10 minutes of work to get it to that level. Let's say 10 to 20, um, just for just to create a range. Um, there's like if you're gonna have someone come over, and you should be able to be like, okay, within 20 minutes I get the place good enough that I'm not embarrassed that they come over. And then the second one is having a party. So you're gonna have a party with people you know, but like you're not super close with, or you want to impress, or people you want to become friends with that you're not really friends with, or it's complicated, things going on. That's like a different standard, right? Because you want the place a lot nicer before that. Or like this stuff behind me, like friends are coming over, I don't care, right? Because they see it, they're like, what's going on? I'm like, oh, working on my computer, this and that. But if I was like having a party with a bunch of people over, I wouldn't have this out. I would get rid of it. I guess it makes you guys kind of close in a way. Hmm. Maybe a little too close. Stop paying so much attention. So so getting it to a party. So like I think that you should be having that kind of party at least once every 3 months, but more like once a month, because you want to like just for your health and sanity, and obviously exceptions like newborns, things like that. You don't want to, maybe you're going to be like, okay, like when we had a newborn, 3 months, we're just like, fuck everything. Like we're just dealing with this. Um, and that was a good decision. I do not regret that. And I definitely recommend it for first-time parents. The But in general, like once you start getting your life on track back after that, like you should be having people over. Like you should be expanding your social network, or staying with people that are like a little bit outside your comfort zone, or even the people that are close to you, right? Like even if you're like, hey, look, I'm a night tight knit community kind of person, I want to spend time with my close friends, like then fine, but realize like you're spending a lot of time there. Like you guys should have standards, and you should move yourself up and like be in an environment that you want to be in. And so I say this like when you're throwing parties and things like that, it's you need to spend time in nice spaces, and like nice spaces that are yours, that you have ownership and responsibility over. Because it changes the way you see the world. It changes your mindset. It like still builds that skill on how to make nice things in like a personal, intimate, practical way. And that's like a real life skill that you need in general. I mean, not everybody, obviously, exceptions, but in general, like this, these are just sort of like the standards. Obviously, you can change them to what suits you. And you should be able to invite people. And I'm not saying it has to be like 50 people, but even if it's like another couple or for single people, if it's a date, right? If you're a single person, like you should be able to have it go on a date, right? So think of it like that. Like if you know if you're in a couple, I guess the video is more for couples. So you're a couple, like you guys got to do dates every once in a while, right? Because you still got to woo each other on that level. Um, or whatever, like, or get together and be like, oh, dates are so dumb, we do this other thing instead, right? Like that's your date. Like you guys are doing a good date when you do that, even if it's not like mainstream. um, but it's like something where you like kind of dress up, or you can like be out in public, or you can feel like you're out in public, like you're being exposed. Because if you don't get that light of like other people staring at you, um, sometimes like it makes you like it builds like kind of agoraphobia, and it makes you kind of stuck inside yourself, and you don't have room to move around, and the outside world starts to get scary and stuff. And that's not a good place to be for anyone. During stressful times, like you gotta do what you gotta do, but then you're not worried about that. But that kind of covers it in a little bit. But if you're like relaxed and you got like a standard life, like you got like what you're gonna do next week and next month, next year, then that's one of those things that should be part of your stack, as I say, part of the way you live your life. Anyway, hope this helps. Hope you guys don't get offended, and good luck.